On her wedding night, a bride in some cultures would leave behind a stained white sheet, physical evidence hung out for the whole village to see. In some communities around the world, this still happens today. But here's the strange part. Doctors who study this will tell you something almost nobody wants to hear. That sheet, that ritual, that whole idea of proof never proved anything at all. Let's start with the number. In 2018, the World Health Organization, together with the UN Human Rights Office and UN Women, issued a joint statement about a practice performed in at least 20 countries, virginity testing. Their conclusion was direct. There is no examination that can prove a girl or woman has had sex. The appearance of a hymen cannot reliably indicate anything about a person's sexual history. Let that sink in. The entire physical proof that cultures have relied on for thousands of years, inspected by doctors, demanded by families, sometimes tested by force, has no scientific basis whatsoever. So if virginity was never really provable, why did entire civilizations build so much around proving it? To answer that, you have to go back further than religion. You have to go back to a much older, much colder problem: fatherhood. When a child is born, a woman knows with total certainty that the child is hers. A man, for almost all of human history, could never know that for certain. No test, no way to check. Just trust, or the absence of it. Evolutionary psychologists call this paternity uncertainty, and it created a very specific pressure. If a man was going to spend years protecting and feeding a child, he needed some way to reduce the risk that he was raising someone else's. Researchers call the resulting behavior mate guarding. One of its clearest, most consistently confirmed predictions is what scientists call the daughter guarding hypothesis. Parents, especially fathers, control their daughter's sexual behavior far more than their sons, restricting clothing, movement, who they're allowed to see, not primarily because of morality, because a daughter with a controlled sexual history was, in the language of evolutionary biology, a more certain investment for whoever married her next. And investment is not a metaphor here. It's the literal economics of what came next. Because once virginity became something valuable, something a family could guarantee, it also became something a family could sell. Go back to some of the oldest written laws we have. In the Code of Hammurabi, marriage already involved a structured exchange of wealth between families. In the Torah, the price a groom paid his bride's father was explicitly higher if she was a virgin, and came with real social and legal consequences if she wasn't. From ancient Babylon to medieval Europe to South Asia today, dowries and bride prices have moved fortunes worth 4 to 6 times a family's annual income. A daughter's virginity wasn't just a moral concern, it was collateral. It set her market price. And this is where the story turns. Because religious codes, the ones most people blame for purity culture, didn't invent this system. They arrived after it. Patriarchal control of female sexuality was already functioning as an economic and reproductive strategy long before it was written into scripture. Religion didn't create the incentive. It gave the incentive a permanent, sacred justification, one that could outlive the economic conditions that built it in the first place, which brings us back to that stained sheet. Right now, in this decade, virginity testing is still performed in health clinics across the world. Inspections with no scientific basis on a body part that cannot actually prove what it's being asked to prove. The World Health Organization calls it a human rights violation. Doctors who study it call it medically meaningless, and yet the practice survives. Not because anyone still believes in the biology, but because the system built on top of that biology never needed the biology to be true. It only ever needed people to believe it was. You didn't inherit a taboo about virginity. You inherited a 5,000-year-old economic contract wearing the costume of morality.